was just telling us, putting NATO on notice when it comes to pulling its own weight in defense spending. Take another listen.
Over the last 8 years, the United States spent more on defense than all other NATO countries combined. If all NATO members had spent just 2% of their GDP on defense last year, we would have had another $119 billion for our collective defense and for the financing of additional NATO reserves.
And to get those little smirks and the side looks and so forth, somehow our European leaders that Adam Schiff is so forthcoming about supporting found all of this particularly amusing, but few taxpayers here do. They're the ones who actually pay the bill. Joining us now to weigh in is Washington Times opinion editor and Fox News contributor Charlie Hurt. Charlie, NATO, let's face it, it's for the benefit of Europe more than any other region of the world. We have footed a large part of that bill for a long time, for decades now, and somehow these guys think it's funny when they're asked to pay up their fair share. How do you think that'll go down with U.S. taxpayers?
Well, I think that I think there's no doubt that U.S. taxpayers are probably more than smirking at them right now. But, you know, this is where Donald Trump is really sort of at his best. You know, walking into an atmosphere like this where he's not particularly welcome, where he's not particularly surrounded by people who particularly like him and like what the message that he offers. And he delivers the message. You know, politicians, they like to be liked. They want a glad hand. This is a guy who, he does like that kind of thing, but he is not afraid to walk into sort of the den of his enemies and deliver a message, an unpopular message that they don't want to hear. All these people wanted to hear him talk about Crimea, wanted to hear him talk about Russia. They wanted to hear him talk about all these other things. But you know, Trump, as he likes to remind us, he's not president of Russia. He's not president of Crimea. He's president of the United States, and that's the message. That's who he spoke for.
But Charlie,
today.
It amazes me. I mean, we have gone out of our way. We have spent our lives and our fortunes in order to defend Europeans decade after decade after decade, and they have this kind of imperious attitude, almost like we're still a colony of theirs. Meanwhile, by the way, the Arabs, with whom a lot of Americans had skepticism about the president visiting, the president seemed to have a lot more effect on changing their attitudes towards something that is very vital to all of our interests, and that's terrorism. Let's just play a soundbite of how he spoke so directly to them and get your response.
A better future is only possible if your nations drive out the terrorists and drive out the extremists. Drive them out. Drive them out of your places of worship. Drive them out of your communities. Drive them out of your holy land. And drive them out of this earth.
Now, I was watching that with my wife, and we hearkened back immediately to Reagan's tear down this wall.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a historic speech, was it not?
I thought it was his finest foreign policy speech that we've ever heard. And it's also a speech, David, if you think about it, how great and how powerful that message would have been from President Obama. And in 2008, President Obama very much campaigned on that kind of stern rhetoric in terms of dealing with radical Islamic terrorism. And he doesn't even have to say that term, since obviously that made him break out in hives and he could never say it. But you could still deliver that stern message to people. He had a credibility that no other president we've ever had, and he squandered it. And so to hear President Trump do this, and again, it's a tough message in front of that crowd. It's not the message they want to hear, but they respond to strength. And I think that's also why that was such a particularly powerful and appealing address to those people.
And who would have thought we'd have that strong alliance of Arab leaders? And I guess Iran, when you have a common enemy like Iran, that's what brings people together. Charlie Hurt, great to see you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David.